everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Aziza Growth Series, brought to you by the Aziza Development Foundation. At the Aziza Development Foundation, what we do, we empower girls and women, fostering access to capital and making them even see, beyond who they are. Aziza, we believe that women are strong, mighty, and precious. In today's episode, we're going to be bringing somebody special, one of us actually. It's going to be discussing his volunteering journey and how, purpose meets profession, how you can leverage volunteering for your own career growth. And with me today is, as I mentioned already, is Yomi Odukudu. And before I forget to introduce myself, my name is Phoebe Akenshola and I'll be your host today. Yomi, please, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi Phoebe, how are you and how's everything with you?
Very
Um,
well, thank you.
it's a pleasure to be here. And my name is Yomi Odukudu, and I volunteer with the Aziza Development Foundation on the side. And maybe I'll say I volunteer as a translator. Yeah, so I help in translating maybe during outreaches and likes. And I'm currently also the community and communications lead at the Digital Grassroots, where we work to reduce digital literacy. In addition, I think anything else you should know about me is the fact that I'm just a small boy, and I'm currently
That's
doing my
so.
currently rounding up my postgraduate studies in African Studies at the University of Ibadan.
Oh, interesting, interesting. So today really just for us to get right into, while we're here is we want to understand your journey, right? Because every one of us have a story, right? And so let's just know, like, what was your journey? How did you even know about this volunteering thing? Like, how did it start for you?
Uh, I think, like you said earlier, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a particular story to tell, and our stories are unique, and our experiences sometimes influences our journeys and our stories.
Absolutely.
Uh, Volunteering started because I was passionate about creating impact in undeserved communities because I come from an undeserved community myself. I come from a community where there is little or no knowledge about certain things, and it has over time become a menace, and that has been something that has shaped my sense of purpose, and it has also provided me with a sense of fulfillment. It's more like giving back to the community that showed me the value of engagement and how local actions can lead to a larger systemic change. So I would say for me, volunteering is something I'm passionate about because while I was growing up, I saw people giving back to the community, and I felt, oh, one day I'll be able to give back to the community. At the moment, I can't give back to the community in cash, but I'm giving back in kind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think one thing that you said that really stood out for me is when you had mentioned the fact that little actions actually culminate into, greater impact. And that's something that I want even our listeners today to take away. Also, like moving to my next question is volunteering helped you develop specific skills in your career. I understand you are the community leader for the digital grassroots. So it's like currently your role at your capacity, what you're currently doing, how has volunteering and not even only for, in the Aziza development, because I heard you mention that, you volunteer for, even for other organizations as well, to say, okay, how has this volunteering thing helped your career development? What career skills have you developed by reason of, being volunteering generally? Yeah.
One skill I think every volunteer will develop along the line, and one I have benefited from directly and indirectly is emotional intelligence. Something
Mm,
you do at work and not just at work in spaces in everyday life. Uh, you learn every day. You do not stop learning. Today you learn something. The day you stop learning is the day you die. So today you learn
absolutely.
something. Tomorrow you learn something. And so I've learned along the line that emotional intelligence is quite useful for me as a person because there are situations where they escalate, and I mean to de-escalate them, you need the level of patience, you need the level of professionalism, and all of that. These are things you do not learn in classroom. These are things you do not learn in spaces or something, or you do not learn in courses you are taking. You learn them. You learn them through practical experience, and I learned some of these things through volunteering. I learned that, okay, you do not have the same perspective as everyone. You do not have the same experiences as everyone. You do not have the same past as everyone. I learned that a lot of times your past tends to influence your journey as a person. Where you're coming from tends to influence your journey, your direction, and all of that. So these are things volunteering has taught me, and these are things I've been passing on to others. And anyone who knows me well will know that I tell you that our experiences are different. So I think one thing I learned from volunteering that our experiences are different. One day you see a woman who is lacking something financially because she does not understand the concept of saving from the onset. And you look and you mean there is nobody who understands the concept of saving? Like it sounds ridiculous to you as a person, but when you hear their background and you hear where they are coming from and what they've been doing all their lives, you tend to understand where they are coming from. And so it gives me this patience to interact with people. It gives me this skill of calmness, and it's like, oh, okay, let me. So now, for every story, I know there is a backstory. So I've tend to understand that there is a backstory to every story, and that's one thing I've learned from volunteering as well. So let me say emotional intelligence and the idea of meeting new people. I'm a very very shy person in real life, so I do not. I'm very shy. I cannot look into the camera directly a lot of times. So you have to pardon me when you see that. But I'm a very shy person in real life, and volunteering has kind of taken that off me as well. I can now interact with people. I can now say, okay, yeah, what is I deal with people personally and physically. I can also I have translated some of those skills into real life work and into day-to-day activities. And now I can tell somebody, this is where I'm coming from. This is what I am doing. So these are things I've learned from volunteering.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Like there was just so much nuggets everywhere flying, and I don't even know which one to pick, But yeah, thank you so much for sharing because really, volunteering gives you perspective, right? Like there are things that you probably would not have been able to experience in your day-to-day life, but you're able to, stay in the lens of another person, right? I think that's really profound. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, I'm like, whoa, that's so good. Well, yeah, like moving on. We know that currently the world is becoming a global village, it's becoming a digital space, right? Usually before, like US was such a far place, but right now, like you can, in the comfort of your home, be talking to somebody in the US or Canada and like different places around the world, right? But something that keeps coming up is branding, right? It's how you want to show up. Like, how do you want people to perceive you? How do you want people to see you, right? And so I was going to ask, um, how has volunteering helped your own personal branding as a person?
As a person, I'll make a lot of perspective. I'll make a lot of reference to where I come from.
Hmm.
Uh, when you were trying to introduce the question, you were talking about how the world is now the digital place and all of that. Where I come from, or let me see where a lot of us come from, a lot of listeners come from, or something like that. In the past, they call the radio Asoromagbesi.
Hmm.
Meaning you just keep the this translation is that you just keep talking and you do not get the response. But these days we have radios where you talk back and you can even call in on shows and all of that. So there is evolution and we have evolved to the point where we can always contact people in other countries and all of that. And you cannot, as a person, say you want to contact someone else without positioning yourself in a way that it's just like a man trying to woo a girl and he's not positioning himself. So
He doesn't have his
exactly,
steez and composure.
exactly. So what are the things you have to offer and all of that? So branding, and that's where branding comes in. That's where we have the idea of branding because the world being a digital space, being a global village now is it brings up the idea of each and every one of us looking at things from our own perspective and from different perspectives as well. So one thing volunteering has done for my branding is that it has presented me as someone who is socially aware. It has presented
Hmm.
me as someone who is emotionally aware. And now people ask me, Yomi, what do you do? And I'm like, I volunteer with the Aziza Development Foundation. What do they do there? They teach financial literacy. What is financial literacy? Then I try to tell them this is what financial literacy. I'm teaching women in undeserved areas and underdeveloped areas what it means to Now that's a very, very nice work. It's kind of gives me this edge, and it gives me this sense of fulfillment as well. So for my personal branding, volunteering has made me someone who's socially aware. Volunteering has made me someone who is digitally smart, or let me say digitally experienced. Volunteering has made me someone who travels around and places I do not know I would have been. There was somewhere we went on for an outreach, and I never knew that place existed. I never knew. And so volunteering has made me aware of that kind of place. And when there are conversations regarding that area, I've been there before. And they're like,
Right. Been
uh,
there, done that.
exactly. So volunteering gives that kind of edge, it gives that kind of perspective, but it gives you this kind of level. And once it gives you this level, you kind of want to announce and say, "Oh, I have learned this from volunteering. I have learned this and that from volunteering, and these are skills I have picked up from volunteering." And that's what it does to your personal branding. It kind of equips. Let me use the lame word. It equips your CV. And beyond that, even as a person, beyond equipping your CV, I mean, you're not doing volunteering to equip your CV. And if you're doing volunteering to equip your CV, I'm begging you, please change, repent before it's too late. But beyond equipping your CV, volunteering does something to you as a person. It changes your psyche, it changes your perspective, and by doing that, it improves your personal branding in the digital space. And now you are online. I volunteer for the Aziza Development Foundation, and I teach people this and that. And people be like, oh, and this, and then it creates more awareness about the topic at hand as well. A lot of people now understand what is financial literacy through my own personal branding, through the message I pass out with the Aziza Development Foundation and all of that. So that's what
Yeah.
so
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Like, I think when you were speaking, you were talking about, being socially aware, emotional intelligence, right? And all of these skills. How would you advise a young person to convert these skills to career advantages, especially those who are just starting their careers?
thank you very much for that question. One of the first things volunteering does to you is to shape your mindset. It shapes your mindset in a way that I do not think any school will teach you, any or you will learn anywhere. And that's one of the most important things you can do as an individual. Once you are a volunteer, I mentioned skills such as social awareness and emotional intelligence the other time. These are things you can translate into everyday work. And these are qualities of a leader as well. A leader who is not socially aware, a leader is not emotionally intelligent. Yeah, I do not think that person qualifies to be a leader. So one thing I've learned from volunteering is that it makes you lead because there is no structured space per se. So even when you get into a structured space, it gives you this perspective of how things ought to be in a structured space. It enlightens you before you get into a structured space, into a work environment, and kind of translating for all of these things. So volunteering does all of this and more for you as a young professional. You learn the idea of how do I put it now? You learn the idea of saying, I want to, I want to, okay, let me come from a personal perspective. During one of the outreaches, we were talking about pictures and trying to translate to them why we wanted to take a picture with them and all of them. And everybody was giving various reasons why they do not want the pictures. So one way or the other, volunteering has taught consent in the media space. Why a lot of people do not want their pictures on media spaces and all of that. And it's also translating to my own work as a communications and community lead because I work with a lot of people and volunteering has kind of shifted my perspective into asking for permission before I use pictures of other people, which is the right thing to do. So it's and then on the level of emotional intelligence, during while you are volunteering with people, you do not want to shout at people because when you shout at people, it defeats the whole intention. So once you take that skill out of volunteering, you bring it to your own workspace, and your colleague is shouting at you and you just look at him. You're like, because I'm volunteering. It's because I learned this. It's because I learned this skill from volunteer. If not, I know what I would have done. So it gives you this sense of calm. It's something you can always translate into your workspace. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think there was even while you were speaking, you mentioned about how some particular people didn't want their pictures taken. And I think brings me to a question of challenges and lessons that you have learned. Although it's all intertwined, right? But what are the specific challenges that you had volunteering?
Apart from the whole content thing that you mentioned, one challenge I've faced over time is the idea of time management. I am I used to think I had an arc on time. I used to think, oh yeah, I can do anything with that because I was timekeeper in secondary school. I became timekeeper even quite early in secondary school. I think as far back as SS1, I was made timekeeper. So I felt, oh yeah, I can always act time. I can always shuffle this and this. I can always program myself and position myself to be at this place. But lo and behold, volunteering humbled me because there was a particular outreach we were meant to do, and I was working, and I really wanted to be there. I really wanted to make that impact. So sharing my time, there are tasks I have to do as work, and there are times I have to figure out something else regarding volunteering. So that's one of the challenges: sharing time, balancing work with volunteering and all of that. This is a challenge, and also the idea of people not understanding the perspective you are coming from a lot of time. Yeah, you're talking about financial literacy. Well, I've come here to teach you financial literacy. Come here to teach you financial literacy, and you're asking us if we are going to give you money at the end of the day. So
There's a
it's a
disparity.
there's that disparity. So that's one of the challenges: the lack of understanding and sometimes translation. I'm a typical Yoruba boy. Well, I get to the field and I cannot translate, and I'm like, how come? What happened to all the Yoruba I've learned all my life?
Outcomes.
Exactly. So there was a particular scenario that kind of stuck to my mind, which was the idea of insurance. And myself and everybody were trying to find out the translation of insurance. These people do not understand what insurance is, and we are trying to ask them if they know what insurance is, but they do not even understand what insurance is. So we have to translate and translate and translate until we settle for Owo Adojuto for.
Spare for us, please, in case we do people from the listener that don't understand Yoruba. What does that mean?
So it's just loosely translated as the money that puts what's OFO that puts
That covers shame.
yeah. So that's usually the loose translation of the money that covers shame, and so shame, and it doesn't actually capture the whole essence of insurance at the end of the day. But I think that's one of the issues with the translation. I think I'm speaking from an academic perspective now, in the sense that translation makes you lose meaning. Meaning is lost when you're translating from one language to another. So that's one of the challenges because a lot of times there are no exact Yoruba words or words in these indigenous languages for some of these English words because they do not exist when the language was formed, and now we just have to do patch, and all of that for them to understand. So that's another challenge as well. The
Hmm.
list of challenges are endless, but just let's leave it at that for the sake of time.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, problem no they finish, right? Um, But yeah, like thank you so much for sharing. I think that literacy is one particular thing that is a gap, in the Nigerian economy generally. Thinking about, even one of the disparities between, or rather the gap between the rich and the poor, literacy plays a major role. And that's why Aziza Development Foundation is, part of trying to fill that gap, not actually like literacy as per writing and reading, but really about financial literacy because we believe that being able to empower a woman is pretty much empowering a nation, right? Thank you so much for sharing. So the next thoughts that was on my mind really was around leadership. And I mean, in all of these conversations, I've heard you mention leadership here and there, and I'm like, is this going in my mind? I don't even know what I want to ask him. So yeah, like how would you say volunteering has helped or can volunteering help you in your path to leadership? Because I know many of us have career goals, career ambitions. Sometimes it's like, do I have the time to volunteer? Like, do I want to be, I want to put my energy in really doing what I really, really want to do. Like, I don't want to go and be working for free for somebody, especially Gen Z's now. Like, I'm sorry, Paul, I cannot work for free, right? But how is volunteering, or how can you use volunteering as a part to your own leadership, personal leadership, career leadership, and even thought leadership?
Thank you so much. I mentioned earlier that as a leader, you have to have basic level of emotional intelligence and social awareness. If you do not have these skills as a leader, I do not know what to say. I'll use maybe a Gen slang. The leader is not leading. So so that's how to put it, because it's okay. Let me go further. It's not giving.
The leader is not giving.
It's not giving. So that's another perspective of it. So volunteering helps you understand these things. It helps you put these things into perspective and put these things into real life situations. I think one of the issues we have in Nigeria today is the lack of social awareness. The lack of social awareness. You see somebody. I just remembered my audience is not just Nigeria. So one of the problems we have in the world today is the lack of social awareness. You see somebody, your next door neighbor, who is there seeking for help, and you cannot help because it's none of my business. But one way or the other, if you volunteered before, the volunteering instinct steps in. That instinct steps in, and you jump at the person. Oh, what happened? This and this. How can I help? And all of that. What can I do to help? Where can I help? Where do I come from? These are so this is a social awareness skills. It makes you socially aware, and there's the idea of emotional intelligence where you have to see things from other people's perspective. I keep emphasizing on that because that's a very, very, very huge lesson I've learned. I would say I came from a privileged community, and one way or the other, volunteering kind of showed my perspective. I said, look, you are just privileged. There are other people who, if they have this privilege that you have, they will do better than you. So volunteering makes me humble. Makes when I see things and I see people and I realize it could have been me, it gives me this level of humility, and that's another leadership trait. That's another leadership quality that we must all learn. I mean, you have to be proud once in a while about yourself, about your achievements, but not in comparison to other people, not when you're comparing yourself to other people. So volunteering teaches you humility. These are leadership skills that motivates you to to influence the community. And when a community sees, or when in a workplace a person sees, oh, my leader is socially aware, my leader is humble, my leader is emotionally intelligent, and all of that, it shapes the perspective of the organization as well. So that's basically what volunteering does.
Thank you so much. And we're about to conclude, and what are your advice? What's your advice actually for aspiring volunteers?
Ah, am I the right person to ask that question? I think
I
for
mean, you're on the
aspiring,
show, so why not give it to us?
I think for aspiring volunteers, one thing is very, very important, and it is the fact that you are doing it. You are volunteering. When you're volunteering because you have a passion for it. You are not volunteering because you are expecting anything in return. Expect everything, but expect nothing. That's what I will leave the listeners with. Expect everything, but expect nothing. In the sense that volunteering helps you to put a lot of things into perspective. It helps you to organize yourself and organize your thoughts as well, your train of thought. And it's like, okay, this is where we are, this is what we have to do next, this is why we have to do this thing. So it kind of give you that organization thought. So I'll just ask everybody to expect everything and expect nothing. So that's the summary of it all.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I think the last, but not the least question is because we've really been talking about how volunteering helps you, your career, your leadership path, and all of that, right? But beyond that, even to the society, what do you think is the impact of having more volunteers in our society?
There's this uh, proverb. It's a Yoruba proverb. It says, "Igi kan ò lè dá gbó ṣe." Loosely translated as uh, one tree doesn't make up the forest.
Mhm.
So now more than ever, we need more volunteers in the world. Now more than ever, we need a lot of people to come together and say we want to eradicate one thing or the other. By the time a group of people who are passionate about something come together and volunteer to eradicate a particular problem or menace facing the society, and another group of people passionate about something else they are focusing on something else, and it kind of works that way. Kind of give these people the perspective of we are doing a lot from a small place. So that's basically it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was gonna say the more the merrier, right?
Yeah,
Because the more we
exactly.
have a lot of people, a lot of people who are interested in volunteering, like the more change that we see. And I think I just want to even go back to what we had mentioned at the beginning of this, podcast to say that little actions actually communicate even into greater impact. And so it doesn't matter like what you're doing, like little by little. The end of the day, it all sums up to that big thing, because at the end of we have seconds, minutes, weeks, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years, right? And I mean, all of these things, all line by line, brick by brick, to be able to make the whole year, right? And so it's effort that you make or effort that you put into it little by little is what really now culminates into that big thing that we're all looking forward to, right? And I mean, like I've been really like, this conversation has really been enlightening and insightful. What would you say what would you advise would be the first step for somebody who's saying, Yomi, I hear you, Yomi, I understand all the things I've said, and I think I want to also grow in these aspects. I want to grow in my career. I want to be able to even, know more. I want to be able to experience more, see things from other people's perspective, as you have mentioned. But how can I start? Like, where do I start from? Let me, I want to know, please, can you share where, somebody who wants to be a volunteer, where can they start from?
You start from figuring out something you're passionate about. You start from figuring out something you like to do. You cannot be passionate about food and say you want to volunteer for physical development. You cannot be passionate about financial literacy and say you want to volunteer for something that does not even align to financial the financial literacy, maybe something around infrastructure or something. It doesn't work that way. So you need to find out what you're passionate about. You need to find out what you like. You need to find out what you love, something that drives you, something that There are times you will get tired. I'm not going to lie. There are times you get weary, but irrespective of how tired and weary you are, there is something at the back of your mind that keeps telling you to get up, rise up, rise up. That's basically what it's about. So once you figure out something you're passionate about, you find a group of people or a community that is also in that line. You mentioned something the other time about the world being in a digital space these days, yeah, and I complemented it with the world being a global village at this point where we are. So you can always go online and look for something something you are passionate about. There is an organization. There's definitely an organization, and if there is none, you can come together with a group of people of like minds to 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 work on something and you develop and all of that. And I can assure you, the people at the Aziza Development Foundation can also help you with maybe mentoring you or something if you do not have a volunteer group and you want to create one. It's something they can always help you with. They are quite passionate. They have a team of respectful individuals who would help you. They are very, very intelligent as well as smart. So basically it. So once you figure out what you want, you join a community or you organize a community, and boom, it starts from there.
Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. And to add to that insightful, point is to say that it's also possible that you can be like me, who doesn't really know what she wants. Like, I can cook, what can I do, safe? I can do plenty things, right? And it's like, which one will I pick? And to say you can also try as many as you want, right? Until you find that rhythm for yourself. Because the truth is, the best gift you can give to yourself is to try as much things until you are refined and knowing what exactly you want to do. So please don't let not knowing what you want to do stop you. By all means, like if you're not like you're me that knows exactly what is passionate about, by all means, and you're like me that is like, I can do 2 million things, guys. So you can actually, try as many as possible. And the truth is, there's actually sometimes when the things that are around you, look around you, check around you, and see what's happening. What are the volunteering organization that you see around? Aziza Development is one of it, right? Check around you and see how like you can contribute to it, right? Thank you so much, Yomi. Like it was such a beautiful time sharing your experience and your story. And I'm sure my listeners and our listeners have taken one or two things, one or two points from your conversation. And this is a call to us all. If you are not volunteering, please, what are you doing? So this is a call for us to, leverage the free things, to be able to even get more insight on what we want to be doing. Because you see a lot of people asking themselves, what's my purpose? What's my essence? Why was I created? Why am I here? Those questions is a question that you answer as a journey. Usually it doesn't happen boom like that, right? It's something that is step by step, precept by precept. As you keep experiencing new things, as you keep, being exposed to new things, you are able to see and say, oh, okay, I think I want to do this, or I think I want to do that, right? Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a beautiful time, having you, Yomi. Thank you so much for taking your time, out of your busy schedule to have us today. And I've come to the end of today's Aziza Growth session, and I am so elated. And I remain your host, Phoebe Akenshola. Thank you. Bye bye.